Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. As usual, I hope everybody had a great weekend. Spring is in the air, basically everywhere. I know the flowers are popping up, things are going, things are moving, and with that being said, it's kind of that time of the year that people are saying, hey, it's special enrollment. I'm not getting as many people to answer. People aren't showing up because in spring, people get flaky. And that's kind of where I thought we kind of start talking today is about spring. People are moving, people are grooving. So that's what we're going to talk about today is how to get people to show up to your appointments that you set. There is some really small tips that I'm going to go over with you. Hopefully, if you can take away, honestly, just one or two things, this is going to be worth your time today. So I thought we'd start with one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes. I've learned that some people will forget what you said, some people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Yes, that's very important in every day-to-day life, but it's also very important to an agent. People will show up based on how you make them feel. If you make them feel that this is worth their time, if you make them feel that this is important, that this is something that they need, they will definitely show up. If not, if you just make them feel like another number, that this is part of the process, that they are part of your big machine on making a paycheck, they won't show up. So starting with a pretty powerful quote that's going to have kind of the whole idea on what we're going to go over today. So this is the one for appointment setting. So this is one thing that I hear over and over and over from agents is that they wish they could just one call close. Because every time I set an appointment, it doesn't show up. I've been there. When I very first started my sales career, wow, going on 15, 16 years ago, it happened to me all the time. I would set an appointment, people wouldn't show up. And I'd actually beat myself up. Instead of being productive that time, I expected the appointment would happen. I'd sit there and beat myself up, and that actually wrecked the rest of my day. Well, realistically, how often can you one call close? And I'll tell you one thing in the insurance industry as well, those that are one call closed usually don't have as high of retention rates because those are people who are impulse buying, which we love. I love instant gratification. I go there, these people buy my product, I'm super happy, everything's good. And then guess what? 2 months down the line, they call and cancel, and I'm wondering why. Well, the ones that don't one call close actually think about it and usually can retain the product a little better unless they've done their own research. Well, so you really can't one call close that often. And we know that clients have lives, they have things to do, that they need the flexibility from us. So when they're ready, that they can have our undivided attention, we have their undivided attention, and we're really sitting there kind of making sure that everything's lining up there. Outside of OEP, a lot of agents tell me that they're really struggling to find a way for them to build urgency for their clients to show. As I told you before, kind of the Maya Angelou, you have to make the person feel important. They're going to have to remember you, remember the experience. That being said, too, you have to build urgency. That is hopefully one of the biggest takeaways right away is that if you are sitting there having your clients not showing up, what you're not doing is you're not building urgency to them. There's no reason for them to show up. Why should they care? What are they in for? So it takes a lot of effort for us to set an appointment. And especially outside of open enrollment, it takes a lot more effort. And when they don't show, it kind of hurts us because that's one less person that we can help. So with that, I would just start out by kind of showing you what numbers does it take to actually make a sale. And then we can talk about the concept of the funnel. So right away, you want to get a sale, right? That is what we are doing. That is our kind of goal, is one sale. Well, to get one sale, honestly, you usually need to have about 2 pitches. Saying that one out of every other person that you actually get through the full pitch, walk through the end of the policy, closes. To get 2 pitches, you basically need 5 appointments. About half of all appointments you're going to set are going to show up and let you run through the whole thing. Not saying that they're not just going to show up, but that they're going to let you run through the whole thing. To get 5 appointments, it's realistically about 1 in every 10 calls you can set an appointment with. So taking a look at the concept of the funnel, at the very top, the biggest number, 50 calls, cuts us down to 5 appointments, which cuts us down to 2 pitches, which cuts us down to 1 sale. Honestly, if you can up any of the areas, it's going to help at the very end, right? So if you can up, not change the number of calls, because realistically, we want to build everything off of a matrix of 50. If we can up 1 appointment, which might up 1 pitch, which has a potential of upping 1 sale. If we can up any of the appointments or the pitches, we are doing good. What we're going to take a look at today is upping the appointments. So this is kind of what we're doing. If you take a minimum of 50 calls, you should get 1 sale, just statistically speaking. So how do we get the 5 appointments to actually increase? Well, let's start out. One of the biggest things to do is actually increase your contacts. If you can just increase your contact rate, I hear a lot of times, hey, the more people I speak to, I can definitely get them to set the appointment. Saying show up, but set, well, that's great, but how are you going to increase your contacts? What are you doing now to change things up? So it's been said that only 2% of all cold calls end in an appointment. Meaning really it takes a ton of calls and a ton of leads to get the job done. So small things can really make a big impact, especially when it comes to expenses for buying leads and then, just raw commissions. First thing I always recommend is try to call on the off hours. And hear me off on what off hours are. So a lot of times what people say is, I really call between 10 and 11, and then I like to call again between 2 and 3. What are your clients doing between 10 and 11 and 2 and 3? Okay, you might want to try during lunch. You may want to try right as they're getting off work, driving home. I know you're saying, hey, my client is driving. I get that. But you catch them when they're walking into the parking garage. You might catch them when they're walking to their car, and they might actually take that phone call. The second thing is, too, try them a little later at night, not unrealistically late. Certain states have calling restrictions, but if you try them between like 7 and 8 o'clock, we're 1099. We can work whenever we want. They're going to say, hey, who the heck is calling me this late? They might actually pick up the phone. People say, try before 10 a.m., try a little bit after 4. The worst times, statistically speaking, are 11 and 2. But hey, give it a shot anyway. Try at 11 o'clock. Maybe it's going to work for you. Try at 2 o'clock. One thing to do is when you're calling on the off hours, do a tick sheet. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this. You write down 1 through 30, and you cross off every time you make a call. When you contact somebody, you make a circle, keep them for a few days, and watch what times are actually working. So what I do is I'd write 10 o'clock, and I'd write out 1 through 30, and then I would sit there and check them off as I go in circle. It helped me figure out what worked best for me and how I could do it. Here's another one, too, that might help you right away. So tell people how you helped others. Your first goal here is to help your customer. Prospects will initially resist setting an appointment with you if they think that it's just in it for just you. There's nothing in it for them. Right up front, in the first second of the first contact, exude service and not selfishness. This is especially important because if you even open your mouth, the prospect is already defensive. You need to go through and you need to let them know, hey, I'm here to help service you. I'm not here just for me. That's why a lot of us do what we do, is because it's confusing. We've had issues with health insurance. We want to make sure it's easy for other people. Your pitch should be selfless, more of a, hey, I'm here to help, instead of, hey, guess what, I'm going to sell you right now. That makes them shut down and run. Here's the last one. Don't sound threatening to the gatekeeper. I get this one all the time. People are like, I can't get past the wife. I can't get past the gatekeeper. I can't get past the secretary. The husband is talking and he won't let me talk to the wife because he has insurance, but they need it for her. So here's a hint. Try to get to know the gatekeeper a bit. You can find out a lot. Let's be honest. Gatekeepers are beasts, right? They are the person who's just the bane of our existence. I hated the gatekeeper. If you know it's a business number, not a cell phone, give it a call or before or after the gatekeeper leaves. A lot of the business owners we work with, it's a small business. They're only going to pay their gatekeeper for 8 hours and a half-hour lunch. The owner will be there before and after. Give them a call. More likely, you're going to get a hold of them. If it is the husband or the wife, try to get to know them, get to know what's going on. They're the ones who feel like they should control the conversation, so start the conversation with them. Let them know, hey, I'm just here to help. They put the information in. I know this is something that's a family decision. Maybe we can all meet together. One of my favorite things I learned to do was actually have the conversations with everybody in the family. I don't know why it worked really great for me, but it absolutely did. I increased my close just drastically if it's like, hey, the husband's the one going to buy the insurance, but let's get the wife on it. Maybe the kids too, heck. Let's make it a whole family thing, and then everybody's going to sit around the phone and we're going to gather together. You'll notice, look, the kids out the second you start talking about money, and it's a pretty good idea. Now, one thing with this too, I would personally separate out my leads that have the gatekeeper from the ones that don't. I like to have a completely different mindset when I'm talking about gatekeeper. I get a little more professional. I get a little more warm compared to the other people who are, they're the ones making the decisions, where I want to come in and kind of be a little more playful with them. With the gatekeeper ones, I like to keep a very professional, very business attitude. And with my gatekeepers, I separate it out between businesses and people. So that's one of the things to do, is have that nice way of organizing your folders, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. So just increasing your contacts. Try during off hours. Separate them out in folders that are going to work better, and use yourself some tick sheets. So if you're sitting there starting to talk to people, one of the biggest things you can do to help decide between an appointment showing and not showing is make them remember. This will be a multi-level hint, okay? So give them 2 choices. People say, what? I get my clients on the phone and then I say, what time works best for you? No, you're busy. Not only are you busy, give them odd times to remember. So I have an availability, looks like this morning at about 10:40. If not, I will have one later this afternoon at about 4:15. Which works best for you? Notice how I said that. I gave them off times. I only gave them 2 options, and then I used the word which. That's going to make them make a decision. Not saying, hey, here's some appointment times. You pick one, whatever's going to work best. No, here's your 2. Which is going to work best? Make a decision right now. And you know what? They do. And then it just helps the conversation move forward. Have them write it down. Personal favorite hint I've ever learned in sales. Literally, I went to a sales conference for a whole day, and this was the biggest hint I took away, and it may still to this day, 15 years later, I'm in love with it. Have them write it down. Say this. Grab a pen and paper, and then listen. Listen to them rustling around. Listen to them, trying to figure things out. You can also say, hey, grab your calendar. They'll put the phone. You can hear them tapping on their phone trying to get to their calendar. That's a good sign. Yes, it's going to be noisy for you, but that's a really good sign. Have them write it down and then have them repeat it. This one's a little uncomfortable. If it's something you're not completely okay with yet, hey, give it a shot. See how it works for you, okay? When you have them repeat it back, you're going to find out if they really paid attention or not. So not only, hey, you know what you're going to do is you're going to write down our time, you're going to write down the why, but you're also going to write down my name and number and then have them repeat it back. If they can't do it, the probability of them showing may not be the best. Keep in mind, you are busy. You are a professional. You are busy. So that's why you're letting them pick 2 times. You're going to relinquish some of the control off of that, but you're busy. Have them repeat it. Let them know that, you're trying to help a lot of people, as many as you can. This is what should go on. The next one is be prepared. So be prepared for objections. That's the first one. Right away, you got to be ready for those objections. They are going to happen. I don't have time. You have health insurance. Great. How is your dental? I want to talk things over with my wife. Great. You should bring her. Get ready for those objections. Be handy. That's why when I'm going through and I'm setting appointments, I actually put a time in my calendar for a solid hour. I stand up. I have energy, like we talked about those communication tips a few weeks ago. I have my mirror up and running, and I am ready for those objections. When I get the objections, I get a little more of a business face going on, and I get ready to just dive into them. We love objections. Let's be honest, we're salespeople. More than likely, we're actually even confrontational. Objections are the fun thing. Be ready for them. You should get your objections when you're setting appointments. That's okay. Just be ready for them. Be prepared to talk about them. Know that also reschedules are normal. So be prepared that not only you're going to deal with objections, that if your client answers the phone and they need to reschedule, that's normal. I was reading some things online about it. It says it usually takes about 3 reschedules for someone to get people to show up. But if they're going to show up by the 3rd time, it's a very serious sale. So be okay with reschedules. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think, hey, I completely failed. No, you got them to answer the phone. They're not only not ignoring you, they answered the phone and they are willing to keep working with you. Huge thing. Don't hesitate about sending out a reminder email. Just one thing about the reminder emails, sometimes they go into people's trash. So let them know, you know what, you're going to get a reminder email. It's going to let you know what we're going to cover. Just take a look at that. If for some reason this time's not going to work, feel free to reply. It's just going to open up another area of communication. Another thing too is don't worry about asking for the appointment. That is some of the things that people are very scared about. It's just like walking through, making sure you're asking for business. You're asking for the appointment. Let's go through, let's set up an appointment to talk more about this. Don't be afraid of that. Be prepared to always step up, ask for the appointment, deal with the objections, and be okay with reschedules. Be prepared to reschedule at any time that it's going to start up. On average, 25% of meetings just right away are going to be the no-shows, right? We took a look. Generally speaking, I think it's really 50% of these are no-shows, but those can be rescheduled. This is a simple part of the process, so don't get discouraged. Remember, you're not scheduling a qualified sales call, but you are simply changing the context of your initial pitch. So be prepared to be professional when handling no-shows and focus on getting the prospect to recommit their time. One thing with no-shows too is don't walk in with too much guilt. That's a really common one. I hear a lot of agents say, I set aside this time, it was extremely important, I'm really busy, you need to get this done. You're going to make the client feel bad. Are they ever going to want to talk to you again? No, they're going to skip to the next agent and be like, you know what? Hey, I understand that we set aside this time. It didn't work for us. Give me a call back. I have a few other openings later this week, and we can just get this rescheduled and, kind of help fix your health insurance needs there. Quick, non-threatening. If you get threatening with your no-shows, trust me, they will never talk to you again. Another one to work as well for your follow-ups. So feel free to set aside time to call your no-shows. I usually do those twice a week. Are also the people who you pitch who didn't close. Those people who picked up the phone and said they're not interested. Give them a bit more time. These are the people who you have not pitched. These are the people who literally picked up saying, hey, I'm not interested, don't talk to me again. Give them a little room, set them back a few months. You can call them up and figure out what has changed. Maybe they got a job. Great. Maybe that job's dental insurance is horrible. Maybe that job has a huge high deductible health plan and they need your accident plan. Maybe they need to have a TrioMed because of their high deductible health plan. That's fine. Some of them need to have a little room. The last is my exact least favorite person to work with. That is the ominous rescheduler. This is the person you need to take down. This is the person who you have to get a little parentish with, right? So those people who sit there and they've no-showed you, you've done a lot of fun, you've done a lot of rescheduling, you haven't been threatening, and then all of a sudden, they just keep rescheduling because they think they're being nice. A lot of times it's those Midwest people. I'm born and raised in the Midwest originally. I know what it's like. That's where I started my sales career, and people would just keep resetting appointments because they think they're doing you a favor. No. Get a little parentish. Let them know how valuable your time is. This is the one time it is okay to get a little aggressive with them, okay? That way you can keep doing what you're doing and take them off the books if they're not serious sale. Don't be afraid to say, I'm just actually going to close out your file because it doesn't seem like this is something that's important to you. that's okay. Because if it is something important, they're gonna say, no, let's do this now. Or they're gonna say, you know what, I appreciate it, thank you. So those are some quick tips, some quick hints on how you can increase your appointment show rate. So keep those in mind. And I thought we'd end with a nice quote here: being memorable equals getting picked. And I hope everybody has a great week. And again, if you need anything, reach out.